Go Kick the World by Subrata Bakshi. So we are going to see this prose today, and here it is. Go Kick the World by Subrata Bakshi. I delivered this speech to the class of 2006 at the IIM Bangalore on defining success. This was the first time I shared the guiding principles of my life with young professionals. So, this lesson is actually a speech that he delivered, that Subrata Bakshi delivered to the class of 2006 at the IIM Bangalore on defining success. So, in the class of Bangalore, he delivered a speech where he talked of success and how it is so important in our life. So, whatever he talked, that entire speech has been taken as our lesson here. I continue. I was the last child of a small time government servant in a family of five brothers. My earliest memory of my father is as that of a district employment officer in Korapat, Orissa. It was and remains as back of beyond as you can imagine. There was no electricity, no primary school nearby, and water did not flow out of a tap. So I was the last child of a small time government servant. So my father was a government servant and I was the last child. And my earliest memory of my father is that of a district employment officer in Korapat, Orissa. And he was sent to work at Korapat where there was no at a place in a small village near Odisha, at a place where there was no electricity, no primary school nearby, and water also was not available. As a result, I did not go to school until the age of 8. Okay, so the writer confesses in the beginning itself that I have not gone to school. I did not go to school till the age of 8. I was homeschooled. So homeschool means he was taught at home only by his parents, maybe. You know, my father used to get transferred every year. The family belongings fit into the back of a jeep. So the family moved from place to place, and without any trouble, my mother would set up an establishment and get us going. See how the mother must be managing the things, because the father used to get transferred every year, and still, without complaining, without even discussing the things, the mother would set up an establishment and get us going. You all must be knowing that when you have to change the house, when you get transferred to some other place, it becomes so difficult, especially if you have children in the house. So you have to actually write from the smallest thing to the biggest thing in the house. You have to actually establish everything. The house is to be turned into home, into establishment, into residence. But my mother used to do all those things. So everything was to be, packed and was to be put into the jeep, and I would carry, and we would go to a different place every year. Raised by a widow who had come as a refugee from the then East Bengal, she was a matriculate when she married my father. Right. So my mother, she was, she matriculate means that it at that time complete school education. So she was an educated woman. She had got complete school education, and she was raised by a widow who had come from as a refugee from the then East Bengal, and so this is what he tells us about his mother. His mother was also educated. She had completed her school education, and the way, at every different place wherever his father was transferred, she would settle the things down. My parents set the foundation of my life and the value system, which makes me what I am today and largely defines what success means to me today. So very proudly he says that my parents set the foundation of my life. Just look at the attitude with which he looks at his parents with so much of respect, with so much of gratitude for them. He says that though his father was just a government employee who used to get transferred every year, and mother was just a matriculate who had just completed her school education, they were the people who had actually laid the foundation of my life. And in a way, I am what I am today, he says, because of them. As district employment officer, my father was given a jeep by the government. There was no garage in the office, so the jeep was parked in our house. My father refused to use it to commute to the office. To commute means uh, to go. I mean, to use it as a vehicle for reaching to the office. So he would refuse to commute it to the office. He told us that the jeep is an expensive resource given by the government. He reiterated to us that it was not his jeep, but the government's jeep, right? So this is a lesson to all the government employees. You must be I mean, you must have heard people talking of the government job and the benefits that you get because of the government job, and people lavishly use those benefits. But here the writer says that my father refused to use the benefits of government, saying that it is not his jeep, it is government's jeep, insisting that he would use it only to tour the interior. He would walk to his office on normal days. He also made sure that we never sat in the government jeep. We could sit in it only when it was stationary. I mean, only when it was they had to go from one place to another place when it was required. Only at that time they used to use jeep. So see, this is a small thing, but this one attribute of his father, this one characteristic, one quality of his father of not using the things for your own benefit, not using the things, the benefits of the government for your own benefit. This one attribute must have worked so importantly, so efficiently on him that he talks of this incident. He remembers this thing. That was our early childhood lesson in governance, a lesson that corporate managers learn the hard way, some never do. So he says that this is something corporate managers learn in hard way. They take so much time. They require so much of advice and so much of teaching to understand this fact that we should not take benefit of someone or something if we are given the privilege. And some never do. In a way, he taunts. The driver of the jeep was treated with respect due to any other member of my father's office. As small children, the driver of the jeep was treated with respect due to any other member of my father's office. As small children, we were taught not to call him by his name. We had to use the suffix dada whenever we were to refer to him in public or private. So the driver of the jeep was not to be called driver. He was to be called Dada. So that is a cultural expression. So that is how we had to talk to him. When I grew up to own a car and a driver by the name of Raju was appointed, I repeated the lesson to my two small daughters. They have as a result grown up to call Raju uncle, very different from many of their friends who refer to their family driver as my driver. When I hear that term from a school or college going person, I cringe. I cringe. I feel so pain. I feel it. I'm sad when I hear. So this is another lesson that I was taught by my parents. Not even by not though they did not even utter a word. They said that you should not call, even though they are below your standard at the place of your work, but because of their age you should give respect. So this is something my parents taught me and I teach to my daughter. To be the lesson was significant. You treat small people with more respect than how you treat big people. It is more important to respect your subordinates than your superiors. Very important. It is more important to respect your subordinates than your superiors. Our day used to start with the family huddling around my mother's chulha, an earthen fireplace she would build at one place of posting where she would cook for the family. There was neither gas nor electrical stove. The morning routine started with tea. As the brew was served, father would ask us to read aloud the editorial page of the Statements Mufassil edition, delivered one day late. We did not understand much of what we were reading, but the ritual was meant for us to know that the world was larger than Koraput district, and the English I speak today, despite having studied in an Oriya medium school, has to do with that routine. After reading the newspaper aloud, we were told to fold it neatly. Father taught us a simple lesson. He used to say, you should leave your newspaper and your toilet the way you expect to find it. Okay. So this another thing that there was neither gas nor electrical stoves, and still, they used to have tea with each other. They used to gather at the maybe at that place, and at that time they had to. The children were supposed to read the newspaper, the Statements Mufassil edition, and the children did not understand anything, but they used to do this for their parents. Told them to do this because he always used to. The father always used to tell the children to read the English newspaper aloud so that everyone else could hear, and they did not understand the benefit of that thing that time. But later on, after getting education, and maybe the parents must have even died, today Subrata Baki says that I actually believe that whatever English that I know today and whatever I can speak today, I think credit goes to that uh, practice that my father had actually given to us of reading the newspaper every morning. Okay, so that one small thing, maybe all of us, even we, do not like everything that our parents tell us to do, but according to Subrato Basti, many things we don't realize at that point of time because maybe our understanding is not our maturity is not enough to realize the importance of what advice our parents are giving us. And one more thing, you should leave your newspaper and your toilet the way you expect to find it. This is also very important. So, very small pieces of advice that the writer must have got from his father. He writes here, and he tells us that that lesson was about showing consideration to others. You know, consideration to others. Once you have used toilet, you should leave it in a position that you want it next time to be. So the more consideration you show to others, they would show to you. Business begins and ends with that simple precept, he says. Business begins and ends. So this is actually, see, these are the normal day-to-day incidents and day-to-day advices. And he says that all these things are equally important even in business. So you can say even these are the soft skills that you are supposed to learn while you are working with somewhere with some person or at some place. Being small children, we were always enamored with advertisements in the newspaper for transistor radios. Enamored, we were always fascinated. We were always, interested in buying those things. The children see the things in the newspaper and they want to buy that. So, being small children, we were always enamored with advertisements in the newspaper for transistor radios. We did not have one. We saw other people having radios in their homes, and each time there was an advertisement of Philips, Murphy, or Bosch radios, we would ask father when we could get one. Each time, my father would reply that we did not need one because he already had five radios, alluding to his five sons. Signaling, talking about them. So he says that we don't need radio. I have 5 radios in my house, my 5 sons. So they had 5 sons in the house, right? So many members in the family, and still, the way the father is taking care of the children. So maybe they were not able to afford radio, but the children were always told that we already have 5 radios. Like we don't need radio from outside. We already have one. We also did not have a house of our own and would occasionally ask father as to when, like others, we would live in our own house. He would give a similar reply. We do not need a house of our own. I already own 5 houses. Another reply, you know, by father. We don't need a house from in the world because I already have 5 houses. The 5 houses are the 5 sons that I have. His replies did not gladden our hearts in that instant. So, in that instant, at that point of time when my father said this, I did not like his reply. But today, I realize the importance of what he used to say. Nonetheless, we learned that it is important not to measure personal success and sense of well-being through material possessions. Material possession, भौतिक सुख, भौतिक सुखों से हमें सक्सेस को मेजर नहीं करना चाहिए. द सक्सेस शुड नॉट बी measured by the material possession. So this is an important advice that the father, even not by saying that I'm giving you an advice, he used to make the children feel that we should be satisfied with whatever we have, because success cannot be measured by the material possessions that we have. Nonetheless, yeah, government houses seldom came with fences. Fences. So the open place behind the house. You can say in the sometimes the government houses every year the father was transferred to some other place, new place, and sometimes at the government houses we used seldom. Sometimes we also had fence behind the house. Mother and I collected twigs and built a small fence. After lunch, my mother would never sleep. She would take her kitchen utensils, and with those, she and I would dig the rocky, white, ant infested surrounding. We planted flowering bushes. The white ants destroyed them. My mother brought ash from her chula and mixed it in the earth, and we planted the seedlings all over again. So we used to plant seedlings. Sometimes whenever we used to get open place behind our house, I and my mother used to uh, try and plant certain plants or trees maybe. And every time we used to plant, the ants, Chetia, the ants would come and destroy everything, and we would plant it all over again. This time they bloomed. So next time when we planted the thing, they bloomed. At that time, my father's transfer order came. A few neighbors told my mother why she was taking so much pain to beautify a government house, why she was planting seeds that would only benefit the other next occupant. My mother replied that it did not matter to her that she would not see the flowers in full bloom. She said, I have to create a bloom in a desert, and whenever I am given a new place, I must leave it more beautiful than what I had inherited. See, such a dignified kind of personality the mother must be, that I may not be able to see the flowers, but someone will be able to see them. So the plant that I have planted today, it would give flower to at least someone, the next occupant, the next government employee who would come and live here. So I am going to, create a bloom in a desert, and whenever I am given a new place, I'm going to do the same. I may not get the benefit of using or seeing those flowers, but someone would get them. That was my first lesson in success. It is not about what you create for yourself, it is about what you leave behind that defines success. So I request you all to try and make a note of the lessons that Subrato Bakshi learned from his parents, from his childhood experiences. These are the small things that he must have seen here and there, and those things actually are equally applicable to the business that he is doing now. So he says that this is a big thing that my mother taught us, that it is not about what you create for yourself, it is what you have left behind, what you leave behind that defines success. तुम जो अपने लिए करते हो वो सफलता नहीं है, तुम अपने पीछे जो छोड़ के जाते हो, what you leave behind, that defines success. My mother began developing a cataract in her eyes when I was very small. At that time, the eldest among my brothers got a teaching job at the university in Bhubaneswar and had to prepare for the civil services examination. So it was decided that my mother would move to cook for him, and as her appendage, I had to move to appendage means cataract means a medical condition in which the lens of the eye becomes progressively opaque, resulting in blood vision. मतलब आंखों में जो एक मेडिकल कंडीशन होती है जिसके कारण आपकी विजन जो है वो ब्लर हो जाती है, दैट इज कॉल्ड कैटरेक्ट. And as her appendage, I had to move too. So a thing that is appendage is a thing that is added or attached to something larger or more important. Appendage मतलब मुझे भी उसके साथ मदर के साथ जाना पड़ा. मतलब 5 भाइयों में से एक को कुछ एग्जाम के प्रिपरेशन के लिए जाना पड़ा भुवनेश्वर, जहाँ पे मदर को भी जाना पड़ा. एंड ऑल्सो आई वेंट विथ माई मदर एज एन appendage. For the first time in my life, I saw electricity in homes and water coming out of a tap. It was around 1965 and it was around 1965 and the country was going to war with Pakistan. My mother was having problems reading, and in any case, being Bengali, my mother was, my mother was having problems reading, and in any case, being Bengali, she did not know the Oriya script. So, in addition to my daily course, uh, my job was to read her the local newspaper end to end. तो उस टाइम पे क्योंकि मदर को आंखों में शी हैड दिस कैटरेक्ट, तो उन वो देख नहीं पा रही थी. तो डेली कोर्स जो रेगुलरली इन द मॉर्निंग दे यूज टू रीड न्यूज़पेपर, इसके अलावा शाम को भी आई हैड टू रीड द लोकल न्यूज़पेपर. दैट क्रिएटेड इन मी अ सेंस ऑफ कनेक्टेडनेस विद अ लार्जर वर्ल्ड. मतलब पूरी दुनिया के साथ एक कनेक्टेडनेस जो है उसमें से मुझे सीखने को मिली कि कैसे आई हैड टू रीड द थिंग्स आउट फॉर माय मदर. I began taking interest in many different things. From that one advice I learned from my mother, I began taking interest in many different things while reading out news about the war. I felt that I was fighting the war myself. She and I discussed the daily news and built a bond with a larger universe. In it, we became part of a larger reality. Till date, I measure my success in terms of that sense of larger connectedness. So the connectedness that uh, I learned from my mother, that actually is equally applicable even today to my life, because I have learned from my mother how we are connected with every other person in this world, and we should not forget this. Meanwhile, the war raged and India was fighting on both fronts. Lal Bahadur Shastri, the then Prime Minister, coined the term Jai Jawan Jai Kishan and galvanized the nation into patriotic fervor. Other than reading out the newspaper to my mother, I had no clue about how I could be part of the action. So, after reading her the newspaper every day, I would land up near the university's water tank, which served the community. I would spend hours under it, imagining that there could be spies who could come to poison the water, and I had to watch for them. Uh, I think I should end for today. The other part of the lesson will be learned in the next class. Thank you.